Hey guys, welcome to Craft Break. I am Bianca, a creator here at Plaid, and as always, we get together every week to create fun and quick Mod Podge projects. Today, I will be showing you how you can make a quick, easy, and simple storage container using some of our wood and plaid surfaces and our Mod Podge hard coat. So I'll show you guys the project that we will be making today, and then I'll go through the supplies that you'll need to create it. So this is the project that we will be making today. This is an easy storage container made out of 4 wooden sides, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the supplies so that you know what you need to create it. So we're going to switch to our overhead camera, and you will need scrapbook paper. You can choose any design of your choice. You will need a pencil. You will need a wooden bead. You will also need a piece of cardboard, hot glue, scissors, and you will need 4 of these wooden pallets. You guys can find these on plaidonline.com. And then you'll also need a sanding block. And last but not least, you will need Mod Podge hard coat. So I'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the project, but we'll go ahead and we will start with our first step. So we are going to grab one of our wooden pallets here, and we are going to trace it out on top of our scrapbook paper. So we're going to do this 4 times. So I'm going to grab my pencil and draw around the shape of my square. And we're going to do this again 3 more times. So we can actually just draw a straight line down the middle because this is pretty much the same size as our surface. And we'll draw a straight line across here. And now I'm going to grab my scissors and we will cut these out.
Bianca, I love that pattern on the paper, that like reflective gold.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
I thought
super good.
this was a pretty cool pattern too.
Yeah, it's really shiny.
Thank you. All right, so we are gonna cut these out, and then we're gonna grab our Mod Podge and our brush, and we're gonna apply these onto our squares. If you guys are working on any projects at the moment, we would love to hear about them. I love hearing what you guys are creating. Valentine's Day is coming up. I would love to hear what you are either creating for your loved one or what you're crafting to decorate your house with. All right, so we have cut out our pieces of scrapbook paper. We're gonna grab our squares and we're gonna quickly apply these to the front of each wooden square. This should take no more than 2 minutes. All right, so I'm gonna grab my paintbrush and I'm gonna apply a good layer of Mod Podge onto the front of my surfaces. We are using scrapbook paper. It almost feels like cardstock, so I'm gonna use a pretty good coat. You can use printer paper for this project if you would like to. You can print out your own design online. If you do choose to do that, I always suggest going with a lighter coat. That way you do not oversaturate your paper or tear it. But since this paper is a little bit thicker, I'm going to use a medium coat. So we will add this onto our last 2 squares. And then we'll go ahead and lay our paper right on top. And for this project, we are using our Mod Podge hard coat. You guys, of course, can find this on plaidonline.com. You can use it on wood, you can use it on ceramic, you can use it on terracotta, you can even use it on metal. And just like our other formulas, this does dry clear.
Bianca, we had a question what you're using to put the Mod Podge on, like the brush.
Yes, so this is one of my favorite Mod Podge brushes to use. I like how the handle is flat. It makes it easy to hold. You guys can also find this on plaidonline.com. We have a variety of Mod Podge brushes, but this is probably my favorite one here. All right, so we have added our Mod Podge to each square. I am gonna grab our first piece and I'm gonna lay it down right on top. If the edges of the paper do not line up with the surface, do not worry about that. We are going to grab some scissors and we are going to clean up these edges. That is also where your sanding block will come in at. Let's actually add just a little bit more to this one. All right. So let's put that right back on top and we'll flip this over so that it gets nice and stuck onto our surface. I'm gonna flip this over for a few minutes. Again, like I said, don't worry about the edges being too perfect. I do try to line up my edges as best as I can. That way I don't have to cut so much, but if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. All right, so let's add just a little bit more onto here. So this project is a faux drawer. I thought that this would look really nice on a shelf with our faux drawer pulls on them. So they look like tiny containers that you can pull. You actually can pull them, but they aren't actual real drawers. But I thought that this would look really nice in uniforms, in your craft room. You can even use these in your bathroom. Or you can even use them in your closet on a larger scale. All right, so we'll flip this one over too. We'll add on our last two pieces. All right. All right. So we are laying this right on top. Alrighty, so last one. All right, so we'll add on this last one and then we'll talk about the edges of our box before we begin to assemble it. I chose not to paint the edges of my container. Instead, I chose to paint them, not paint them, cover them with more of the scrapbook paper and the Mod Podge. But if you do prefer to paint the edges of your box, you want to do that before you begin to add on your scrapbook paper to your surfaces. All right. So we have our last piece on. We'll go through, we'll trim these up as needed. All right. So let's flip this one over. We'll let that one dry for a second. I'm gonna grab our first one and we'll just go along the edges with the scissors. If needed, you can clean up the edges with a sanding block. So I actually have one here. I really don't need it for this piece, but I'll show you how you can use it to clean up the edges around your surface. So you just want to lightly sand around to kind of clean it up. So we'll come over here. Let's add just a little bit more to our corner right here. It's coming up. All right. All right. So yep, you can just go around the edges and sand lightly. Don't be too rough. You don't want to mess up your paper. Like I said, this piece didn't really need it too much. So we're going to go ahead and set this one off to the side. Let's grab our other ones. Just quickly going through with scissors. Another thing you can do with this project, if you don't want to use printer paper or scrapbook paper, you can decoupage this with napkins. I've done that a few times. If you're going to use napkins, always remember to remove the ply from your napkins before adding them onto your surface with your Mod Podge. If you don't, your napkins will bubble up and they won't stay down. Alrighty. So you got one more piece here. All right, let's move some of this excess paper out of the way. And so what I was speaking about just a second ago was the edges of your box. So right now these are raw. I have my finished example that I'm going to pull over in just a second to show you how you can cover the edges of your surfaces. Or you can leave it raw, you don't have to paint it. But again, like I said, if you do want to paint the edges of your box, you want to make sure that you do that before you add on your scrapbook paper, because what you don't want to do is start painting and then mess up your design. So I'm going to pull over this example. So let's bring this over here. So you can cut small strips and measure them to the sides of your box. Grab this here. Don't want everything to fall out. Okay, so I'll hold this up closely. So you can cut small strips to glue onto the sides of your box to make it look nice and neat and finished. Again, you can also paint the edges. So I'll do 2 of the edges here with you guys, and then we'll go ahead and we'll assemble our box. So let's grab another piece of our paper. Alrighty, so let's go here. All right, so I'm going to line this up, and I'm going to grab my pencil, and I'm going to draw straight down. And so this strip here will match the size of the side of my surface. So we can go ahead and we can do that. We'll do it one more time. All right. Actually, let's go ahead and do it 2 more times. So 1, 2. And just like the front of our surface, if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. You can always go around with your scissors and your sanding block to kind of edge it up just a little bit. All right, so we'll set these off to the side one more time, and we'll cut these out. So I'm grabbing my scissors again, and we will cut. We have a flyer. Am I grabbing that, Stevie? Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's grab, let's see. Let's grab this one. It's pretty dry and ready to go. So I'm just going back with my Mod Podge, and I'm going over the edge of my surface. I'm just adding a medium coat of Mod Podge, and then I'm going to grab a strip of the scrapbook paper that we just cut. And I am going to lay it right on the edge. So if you're going to use scrapbook paper, or if you are going to use printer paper, you probably will have to do what I'm doing right now, because scrapbook paper and printer paper, it doesn't really bend too well. If you do try to bend it, you'll notice a crease, and you want it to look nice and neat. So that's why I'm doing it this way. But if you choose to decoupage it with a napkin, you might be able to get away with bending the napkin around the edges without it looking too creased. So this is just a way to kind of make it look a little bit neat, a little bit more neater and seamless. So I'll hold it up and I'll show you guys what I mean. So we don't have a super hard crease, it looks seamless. We're gonna grab our scissors and we're gonna go across right here and edge it up just a little bit. Let's press that down just a little bit. I would love to hear where you guys are watching from.
Yeah, we've got Jill from Connecticut and Monica from Wisconsin.
Ooh, are you guys cold up there?
I would imagine.
Is it snowing? Is a better question. I know it's cold, but is it snowing? All right, so we have one of our edges done. We're gonna go ahead and do one more together. You guys can do the rest at home when you are completing this project. So we'll just do the front of the box. Again, I have a finished example here that I will pull out for you guys to see again. So we have another strip here that I've cut out. I'm gonna grab just a little bit more of our Mod Podge, and once we finish this step, we will begin gluing our box together with some hot glue. All right. So one thing I do want to mention, and I always suggest this, if you are going to use napkins for this project, you want to use a busy pattern. So right now I am using a pattern that has lines, but when you are decoupaging with a napkin, it's best to use maybe like a floral pattern, something that doesn't have to line up perfectly. Because 9 times out of 10, you will have to cut multiple pieces of the napkin, and it's not gonna line up if you try to do a straight line, or if you're trying to match, like if you're using a face and you try to match the 2 sides of the faces up, it's probably not gonna match. So make sure you use a pretty busy pattern. That way everything is pretty camouflaged when it's all put together. All right, so let's smooth that back down again.
Bianca, we've also got Michelle from Missouri, and we have a viewer on our YouTube stream from Turkey.
Oh, Turkey. I would love to go to Turkey one day. I always see the beautiful pictures of the hot air balloons and the beautiful horses that you guys have. Alrighty, so we have 2 wrapped edges. I'll hold that up close so that you guys can see it. Now let's grab some hot glue and let's start putting our storage box together. All right, so I am going to start by adding hot glue. Let's get this stretched over here a little bit more. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna add a little bit of hot glue here. We're gonna go ahead and put our first 2 pieces together. So let's make this the front side of our box. All right, so I'm going to glue that right here. Try not to use too much hot glue. Sometimes when you use hot glue or too much hot glue, it kind of seeps through the cracks. So try not to use too much if you can help it. You can also use super glue for this. Super glue is not as instant, but that does work. You just have to wait a little while longer, but at least you won't have the hot glue clumps. So let's grab the other part. Uh-oh. All right, so let's add a little bit more hot glue over here. Okay. So let me hold this so you guys can actually see it. All right, so we're adding a little bit more hot glue here. I'm gonna go ahead and glue it onto the other side of our box. And then we have one last piece. So let's actually hold this together for just a second. All right, there we go. All right, so let's flip this around and we will add our last side on. So let's actually add a little bit of hot glue inside right here and over here. accidentally covered up one of our finished edges, but the good thing is I have my finished example that you guys can reference. All right, so let's flip this around. So when it's all put together, it should look something like this. So this is the side that I accidentally covered up. But let's go ahead and let's add the bottom onto our box. So you can do this multiple ways depending on what you will actually be using or putting inside of your storage box. You can use different types of paper. You can use cardstock. I'm using cardboard because it's a little bit more sturdier, but if you know that you're just going to be putting pencils inside of your storage container, you can use some heavy cardstock. You can also use one of the wooden surfaces that we just used to put this entire box together, but it's not going to be seen, so I would suggest maybe hanging on to that for a different project. I think for the bottom of the box, a piece of cardboard is sufficient, but you can definitely use the wood as well. So you want to measure it to match the opening of your box. So I've gone ahead and done that already. I'm going to clean up the edge just a little bit better so that it fits the size of my box. And I'm going to go ahead and line the sides with some hot glue. But if you know that you'll be putting heavy duty things inside of your box, it probably is best for you to use the wood surface. But if you're going to be putting things like yarn, maybe a pair of scissors in there, I think cardboard works just fine. So we are going to set this right inside and press this down. Let that sit for a second. So while that is drying, you want to grab a wooden bead. So this is just a regular wooden bead that I have painted with our Folk Art Treasure Gold color. And we're going to grab some hot glue and add some to the back of it. And we're going to stick this right onto the front of our container. And this will be our fake drawer pull. All right, so let's flip this up. We're going to add this right there. All right, so you want to let everything dry for about 30 minutes. You can add a top coat to this project if you would like, especially if you know that you're going to have this maybe in an environment that has a lot of traffic, or if you think that you could be potentially, brushing past it with paint. You can add a top coat of our Mod Podge hard coat. It is not necessary at all, but I did want to let you guys know that you can add this for an extra layer of protection. Again, this is our 8-ounce bottle. You guys can find this on plaidonline.com. This does go on wood. You can put it on metal. Like I said earlier, you can also put this on terracotta, and you can also use it on paper mache. All right, so I think everything here is dried. I'm gonna pull out our finished example again really quickly so that you guys can see it up close. So let's pull this and I'll flip it up so that you guys can see it. So this is our finished project, and so this one actually has the finished edges on it. You guys can see that I put them on the top and the front. And again, like I said, you guys can paint it. You do not have to cover it with scrapbook paper. So this is our project. Before we get out of here, if you guys have any questions, let us know. So we'll go ahead and we'll switch back to the front camera so you guys can see this from the front. So this is super easy, super cute. I don't think you have to have a real skill level when it comes to crafting to create this. You might have to have just a little bit of patience, But other than that, this is easy. If you do not have hard coat at home, you can definitely purchase on plaidonline.com. But if you do have any of our other Mod Podge formulas, you can still create this project with those. So if you guys do not have any questions, before we get out of here, we will see you guys back next week with another fun Mod Podge project. Make sure you use hashtag PlaidCrafts so that we can thumbs up and see all of your projects. See you guys next week.